gentlemen, boys and girls, get ready. Hang on. The superstars of Supercross are coming at you. From the Los Angeles Coliseum to New Jersey's Meadowlands, from Anaheim to the Seattle Kingdom, Supercross is rocking the sports palaces of America. I'm Dave Despain, and we're paying a visit to that American sports institution, the ballpark.
And I'm Larry Myers. We're here to tell you that for pure excitement and spectacular action, make way for the newcomer to these stadiums, the sport of motorcycle Supercross.
And you'll see why we think that as we join tens of thousands of stadium fanatics and take this video tour of the world of Supercross. Hang on to your handlebars. I guarantee you, this is going to be wild.
Well, let's start with the start. That's where it all gets underway. For tension and excitement, the start of a Supercross race rivals the Super Bowl kickoff or the first pitch of a World Series.
Welcome to Start Wars. The Supercross battles begin with the drop of the gate. In the moments before the start, time stands still. But when that gate hits the ground, these Darth Vader lookalikes are up to their helmets in action. Take a look at these starts.
Now, when all goes well, that line of bikes coming out of the starting blocks look like the Rockettes at Radio City Music Hall. But as Gary Bailey found out, things don't always go as well as they should. Look at that. Over the blocks, onto his head, and now a broken foot in the process.
Larry, when things go wrong, the race to turn one can be chaos, a crash fest, or a comedy.
Or a trauma, as the name implied.
If you think there's a traffic jam in the parking lot getting into one of these places, take a look at this.
Well, Dave, they're not going all that fast, and after all, they're just piling into hay bales. Of course, they pile in one on top of another.
You know, Larry, sometimes they refer to the start as a drag race. Here's why. You sometimes end up dragging the other guy's motorcycle.
I thought that was a spare he brought just in case he fouled a plug or had a flat tire.
You know, Larry, if you blow the start, you run the risk of getting left in the dust, literally.
Now, once the start is underway, you just never know when the problems will occur. Could happen at the back of the pack, the middle of the pack, or the front of the pack.
The worst, of course, is when it happens way up above the pack.
Now, that ground has to get hard when you hit it from 20 foot in the air. Now, watch this next bunch of guys. They look more like bucking broncos at a rodeo.
You know, Larry, I noticed that crashing is colorblind. About the time you think that it's only the green motorcycles that tip over, some guy comes along on a white bike and runs his face right into the dirt.
And he was in contention. Look at that. Smacks the ground, hurts his hand in the process.
I like this when the green bike ends up being a yellow bike sandwich.
Now, the very design of the Supercross track is what leads to all of this mayhem in turn number one. They start out with 20 bikes wide at the start, funnel it down to where there's only room for 5 or 6, but Supercross riders are good sports. They're willing to give up their position on the track for their buddy.
Nice guys. Sometimes it looks like everybody's made it through the first turn just fine, but looks can be deceiving.
You know, sometimes crashing in the first turn leaves you in a wrestling match with your own motorcycle.
That's a lot better than tag team, you against 3 other motorcycles and their riders.
Well, you know, the first rule of Supercross reads, if you absolutely must do something dumb, don't do it right in front of a camera.
All right, I've seen chaos, I've seen crashes. Where's that comedy we talked about?
Well, it's right here, Dave. The Keystone Cops go Supercrossing. And just when this Chinese fire drill seems almost at an end, number 217 starts it all over again.
Well, Larry, by now, you may have noticed that Supercrossers crash a lot.
As a matter of fact, Dave, these super crashers have developed so many ways to fall off a motorcycle, we need a dictionary to keep them straight.
Well, Larry, if we take a look under the letter C, we find Crasher's Corner. And the first entry is Hit and Run.
Now, of course, there are variations on each one of these themes. The one coming up, for example, is Hit and Crash. Now, here comes a variation on the variation. It's called Hit and Crash and Both Fall Down.
Something a little more complex, Larry. The combination crash. Number 40 is the real target here, and they finally take him out of there.
Well, let's stay with the C's in the dictionary, and we'll call this one the cluster crash. You get a couple of guys that start the whole thing, then 5, 6, 7 of them try to ride through, but they end up right in the middle of it.
Finally, the flagman gets so put out with the whole mess, he comes, throws his flag, and says, I'll get these guys out of here.
Now, you get 5 points for hitting your buddy from 3 feet in the air, and 25 points for hitting him from 20 feet in the air.
Ouch. Next comes the rarest Supercross crashing technique of all. This is the hitchhiker. Only a few brave riders are willing to try this. To really appreciate it, you've got to see it in slow motion. Ross Peterson sees that his competition is a little bit faster, so he reaches out in midair and he grabs hold and figures he'll just go along for the ride. And it works pretty well. He's able to hang on for about 10 feet. Of course, once he leaves his motorcycle behind, he loses a lot of ground with this maneuver, and he eats an awful lot of dirt.
Let's round out our crashing dictionary. A couple of basics. This is a low side crash, falling off the side nearest the ground.
It's only logical, then, Larry, that this must be a high side crash.
Well, if they have to crash, most riders would prefer a low side.
Going over the high side generally means you hit harder.
And once again, to make sure you have it straight, low side
and high side.
Oh, and these, by the way, are known simply as abrupt halts.
You know, Larry, there are few things that will cause a motorcycle to stop more abruptly than a head-on collision with Mother Earth.
And we should point out that good crashing technique requires cooperation from your motorcycle. Now watch in this episode as number 20, Jeff Matasevich's Kawasaki, becomes totally unruly after colliding with Doug Dubach's Yamaha. And here's another one. A properly trained motorcycle, once it's been crashed, will stop and wait patiently for further instructions.
Larry, no matter what we call them or how we poke fun at them, the spectacular crashes of Supercross are all born of the same element, competition. It is the will to win that carries great racers like number 5, Jeff Ward, and number 7, Jeff Stanton, to the brink of crashing and sometimes beyond. Here's an episode that ends in a harmless crash, but more importantly, stands as a monument to a champion's determination. Stanton bouncing off of Ward. Wouldn't be headline news except that here, Stanton risked the National Supercross Championship just to beat Jeff. With the series winding down and a big point lead, Stanton should have been on cruise control. The only thing that could deny him the title would be a crash and an injury, and look what happened. Jeff Ward cruised to the win that night. Stanton jumped up unhurt and went on to take the title. But Jeff had made his point at Dallas. He's the king of Supercross because he always races you as hard as he knows how. He comes to beat you no matter what.
In the top spot, and of course,
now, we've been watching bloopers on the track. Let's take a look at a few off the track. I'll bet you've made some. I know I have. We'll start with one of our colleagues, Gary Bailey. He's asking a rather lengthy question. Listen to the answer.
After being the first Japanese rider to qualify for a main event here in San Diego, California, how do you feel?
thank you very much.
In the early Supercross action seen here on ESPN, we've seen the West, Damon Bradshaw, the best in the East, and Jeff Matasevich, the best in the West. I got that backwards. In the early... I can't do that while I'm laughing now. Jeff, the question is... What is the question? Rick, there's no doubt the coil is going to be a factor tonight, right?
I'm very warm right now.
With me, the legendary Bob Hurricane Hanna. He hasn't provided the excitement at this year's Supercross series.
Only because I'm not riding, though. Otherwise, I would have. Mr. Supercross. Thank you.
Looks like you finally got the start you were looking for.
Yeah, I got that start. You know, I knew I could do it. I just had to time the gate right. You know, after we got caught in the one the first time, I go, well, so maybe that screwed up my time, but I think it bettered it. Thanks a lot, Larry. Gary.
And now here's Larry, with a few of his friends who want to get on television.
From Tampa Stadium, the Supercross series is... Hello, I'm Larry Myers. The 1989 Supercross season has...
This is Larry Huffman. He announces all the Supercross.
Okay. The 1989 Camel Supercross series is moving right along. At any Supercross, the starting gate is probably the most critical...
Larry, they say timing the start is everything. Your timing's aces, man.
But you see this next one. I thought I'd never get through this little stint. The 50-yard line. Take 12. Now here's ace factory mechanic Brian Lunas. He tunes a motorcycle to perfection. Words? Well, that's another story.
To compensate for not being... Oh, why did I blow this?
Oh, don't go to compensate for it.
I know. We just changed the jets.
We just changed the jets.
Because we're stupid.
Got to make sure they're not.
And we're just truck drivers and roadies. And we're not great announcers like Larry Myers.
Fine ride.
You! It's it. Okay, this man has been with the two most winning riders in Supercross, and it's a lot of it is because of him, because he's a great motivator and he keeps the bike running all the time, you know.
What do you think about that, Brian?
Well, he said it all. What else can I say?
Let me take you to one of the parties held earlier this week.
I was impressed that Professor Bailey got his lead-in done with Claude the Camel nuzzling his neck, but really impressed that he had the presence of mind to interview Claude's ugly sister, Claudine. Even offered to buy her dinner. She was thrilled. Claudine hadn't had a date in a while.
I'm not sure Gary has either. Good stuff. Now, Dave, let's make a quick transition from bloopers to ballet.
Larry, so far we've seen a lot of things go wrong in Supercross, but when it goes right, this sport is truly a thing of grace and beauty. Supercross fills the stadiums with flying motorcycles. Sometimes the skies become so crowded, this series needs an air traffic controller.
Well, near misses are a common occurrence in this high-speed traffic pattern.
Mid-air collisions are not unheard of.
Unorthodox landing patterns give the safety people fits.
And overcrowded approaches sometimes present problems of their own.
And the ground-level traffic problem is even worse. Supercrossers are constantly trying to occupy the same space at the same time.
Soaring high above the stadium floor or banging handlebars down here in the trenches, the stars of Supercross battle each other and the racetrack.
Well, you know, converting a football field to a Supercross track is quite an engineering feat, and it's performed under difficult circumstances.
It takes 2 24-hour days to haul in 12 million pounds, that's 6,000 tons of dirt that it takes to build a racetrack. The Pontiac Silverdome recorded that 2-day process with its Diamond Vision camera and stored the images on video disc. That gives us this opportunity to show you the entire process in about 30 seconds. And here's a footnote about stadium tracks. Not all these places are domed, and when it rains, the open-air Supercrosses are a real treat.
Now, Supercross started with this, outdoor motocross. You take all this action and put it inside a stadium, and you need barriers, banners, and bales.
Ah, yes, indeed, Larry. These stadium tracks are tight, they're rough, and it's hard to stay on them. Things get really, really crowded, and when you get off the course, you'll encounter all manner of obstacles, including the ultimate in track builder technology, the venerable hay bale.
Hey, who put that bale in the middle of the corner? Well, regardless of what the track builders use to outline the race course, the riders will always find a way to test its strength.
Larry, it's just a fact of Supercross life. Racers inevitably need just a little more room.
And to get it, they'll move any obstacle that's in their way.
Or they'll go over it.
Or they'll go over it and leave their buddy in the mess.
Sometimes they'll just go around it.
They'll even go right through it.
Nudging a bale with one wheel or the other may get it to move.
But sometimes it won't move no matter how hard you hit it.
Or how many times you hit it.
You know, there are vindictive bales, and they've been known to chase riders and hit them back.
A determined crasher takes out bales and banners.
Yeah, but a real ace can hit all three, bales, banners, and barriers, all in one shot.
Or miss all three and take out a trackside mini bike. That's precision.
Now, some send their motorcycles on ahead to do the dirty work.
Others leave the bike behind, do it all themselves.
Well, regardless, they always seem to get the job done. When it comes to busting up hay bales, Supercrossers are on top of things.
Well, as traditional as the seventh-inning stretch or halftime at the ball game, intermission at the Supercross races gives the fans a chance to play. Also to replenish the beer and hot dog supply and to enjoy a variety of unusual entertainment.
For example, mini motocrossers. They copy their grown-up counterparts in every way possible, even to the point of crowding and pushing on the track and sometimes crashing.
And just like the big guys, Larry, they climb right back on the horse that threw them. These little guys may be small in stature, but they've got big hearts, and I think the mini Supercrossers deserve their own moment in the musical spotlight. Victory is ageless, literally. Means just as much to these young kids as it does to the grown-ups.
Well, you know, when one of these little chargers gets in over his head, there's always a helpful grown-up standing by to lend a hand. But these guys need eyes in the back of their head. Poor Herb, he's so intent on helping little Billy, he never sees the lap-in tip over right behind him.
Look out there, Herb. That little kid's disappeared underneath his motorcycle.
Ah, Billy's okay. Just got his face dirty.
Intermission at the Supercross races offers everything from monster trucks to jet-powered mud boggers to entertain the paying customers during the breaks between the races.
Well, it's always been my theory that monster truck drivers are all frustrated Supercross racers. At least they crash like them. Look at this.
You're exactly right, Larry. Now check out the variety in this motorized parade of power.
Dave, we've been watching crashes throughout this video, so it's only fitting that we close out our halftime extravaganza with one more. Let's watch the very popular truck, Barefoot. Now, he's going to make just a slight miscalculation when he tries to turn a corner. He put the pedal to the metal and let the good times roll. Look at that.
Larry, obviously, everybody in the place is deeply concerned about the welfare of the driver of Barefoot. It's a moment of great tension and drama as the safety crews come, and lo and behold, he's okay.
And here's another popular halftime entertainer. It's the Wheelie King, Doug DeMokin. Now, Doug is cool. He really digs that laid-back style.
So what are the riders doing while all this foolishness is taking place during intermission? Well, this is their opportunity to get together with their fans, to sign autographs, to pose for pictures, and to generally enjoy themselves during the break in the action. From mini bike racers to wheelie kings, from autograph signers to monster truck crashers, intermission is a chance to catch your breath.
Back to the races, the highs in Supercross are very, very high.
And the lows are very, very low.
And when you go from high to low, you come down very, very hard.
In the world of endos, step-offs, and nose-ins, the question is when to hang on and when to let go. Some guys throw up their hands and walk away when things go wrong.
And other guys, well, they hang on till the bitter end.
In the parlance of Supercross, Larry, this is called an endo. This is the high price of hanging on.
And there was the high price of letting go. Now, coming up is a guy who endos, and he's embarrassed. He's going to try to hide. Look at that.
Of course, not everybody who tries to hold on does an endo. The nose-in is another popular method of getting down to earth fast.
Have you noticed, Dave, in the world of endos, step-offs, and nose-ins, the objective seems to be to get rid of your motorcycle as quickly as you can?
Not always, Larry. Sometimes you hang on till your buddy gets there, then throw your motorcycle and hit him right in the head.
Well, the opposite extreme is to let go when you know you're in trouble. They call that stepping off, and on a good night at a Supercross, you'll see a half dozen step-offs.
Larry, how long you can hang on determines whether you get separated from your motorcycle or end up wearing it home from the Supercross race.
Well, generally speaking, Dave, it's not a good idea to let the handlebars get away from you.
And if you are separated from your motorcycle, look out. Getting back together can be very painful.
It amazes me, Dave, these athletes take the kind of beating one weekend and come back the next weekend for more.
You want to see more? Watch Larry Ward get face-to-face with a front wheel. Larry, what we're watching here is the downside of Supercross, the occupational hazard, the high price of success. No pain, no gain.
Dave, we need to add one more element to the thrills, spills, and chills of Supercross. It's what the sport is all about. Enjoy with us a musical salute to winning. On that winning note, we'll wrap up our trip to the stadiums where Supercross has found a home.
But we won't forget the important lesson we've learned here today. For non-stop excitement and hard-hitting action, it's tough to beat a visit to the Supercross races.